Good afternoon, welcome to Toffee TV. It is the Everton Daily Live. I'm delighted to say, joined in the studio by Everton's Echo correspondent and author extraordinaire nowadays, Chris Beesley. Chris, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm okay, Baz. I'm glad to be invited back. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, like I was saying before we went on air, could have been a lot better if it hadn't been for those back-to-back defeats. Quite different circumstances this week, but I'm sure we'll come on to that.
We will indeed, mate. We will indeed. Last time you were in, the season hadn't started. You were promoting your book, which is called
Spirits of the Blues. Yeah, it's Everton's most memorable matches, goods and parts, greatest games, and I'm glad to say it's been well received. I was actually able to give a copy to David Moyes after the Aston Villa game. You know, he features on the cover, so I was honoured and privileged to be able to give him a copy of that. And I'm just glad with all the feedback we've been getting from that one. It tells the story of Everton's 133 years at Goodison Park.
So it's available now?
Yeah, on Amazon.
Go and buy it from Amazon. Yeah. It was ahead of the season, obviously, and we started off with a awful performance at Leeds and all that. But it did pick up, didn't it? We had, obviously, 3 wins on the run.
Yeah.
And then there was an international break. I mean, just before we go on to that, how do you think Everton did in the transfer window overall? Because there was still a couple of weeks left. I think we just signed Jack Grealish, haven't we, when you come in? So how do you think we did overall in the window?
Well, I think they kind of ticked a lot of the boxes that they were looking for, but I think certainly, I mean, short-termism, but this week maybe there's been some question marks about some of the recruitment, because a lot of those players are ones for the future, and that is important, that you're looking at the bigger picture, but it's not necessarily helped Everton right now. I think Tierno Barry desperately needs a first goal. That could help him. Him and Beto obviously shared in the striking duties right down the middle. Last 2 games, we've had one first half, one second half. Yeah. So, that's and the same to a greater extent with Tyler Diblin as well. Obviously, making his full debut at Wolves, precocious talent who could go on to do great things. But as we saw at Molineux, he's not quite there. He's a while off just yet. So, in terms of, I mean, we were both there, weren't we, in that room in the Racket in Manhattan when David Moyes had his drop the mic moment, which was greatly received by all the Evertonians in the room when he said we need 9 or 10 new faces, and that was always going to be the case, wasn't it? Because it was the players who were leaving over the summer, so it was going to be a big overhaul. It probably could have done with one more right winger. I know Iliman Ndai's done well since he moved over there, and as we know, they were in for a right back and they didn't get that. The Kenny Tetty deal was off, so maybe a couple shy of where they want to be. And I've heard some people talk about how they'd like to see more striking cover, but I think potentially a bit of a unicorn there for thinking, get somebody with Premier League experience who's willing to be a third choice striker, bit part role. It's tricky, isn't it? So I think they'd be reasonably pleased with the type of players they were able to get for the certain positions that they needed, albeit David Moyes said with 9 teams in Europe, that made it difficult on recruitment front, because a lot of teams in Europe, you know, the players who are in the market want to be playing for European teams in Europe, so that counted against them. I think reasonably well, but like I said, there have been some more question marks, and you could probably throw Adam Asno into there as well, because at the moment David Moyes doesn't seem to fancy him. You've got to remember, it probably took Leighton Baines quite a while and he was obviously a much more established player and came in as the club's most expensive defender at the time. But as we all remember back, Julian Lescott was getting the nod. So Asnu's another one who's probably a while off yet. Barry needs a goal. Tyler Diblin just got going at Wolves, and like I think for all of Everton's attacking midfielders that night, it was a tough night. So yeah, there are question marks there that we're all discussing there, but I think they can be reasonably pleased given the huge amount of overhaul that they needed to do. You know, as David Moyes said, he's not going to fix it in one window. 9 or 10 players was always going to be tough, but they filled most of those holes, and obviously Merlin Roll coming in right at the end. Not seen too much of him, but what we've heard, it's been impressive at Finch Farm, and he looked decent when he came on against Villa. So hopefully it was pretty decent, but time will tell, I guess, like a lot of these things in terms of how these players develop.
I think with the full-back positions, I think obviously Jake O'Brien's done a decent job there. At right back, David Moyes likes that physical presence, tall full-back, but his limitations are he's He's 6'6". He shouldn't really be charging up and down that right wing, doing step overs and putting crosses in, should he? And that is really going to be the next bit of development for Everton, isn't it? Getting two attacking fullbacks, because the Premier League is littered with the best teams who play like that, and Everton don't. And especially because Everton's wide players aren't quick, really. They're not sprinters, are they? And they like to come inside. So when they're coming in field, there's a big old space either side of it, which Everton aren't using at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw it over a decade ago when Moyes was there first time round, of talking about how Leighton Baines took a while to find his feet and he preferred Lescott in the early days. But once Baines had developed and sort of settled, you had him on one side and Seamus Coleman and his pomp on the other side. Probably one of the very best fullback combinations in the division. And also they changed the way fullbacks play, because obviously before Coleman you had Tony Hibbert there, who's a great stalwart for the club, but obviously famously holds a record for the most games for an outfielder without scoring. So it was a time when those attacking fullbacks were just sort of coming through. The game was changing. And it's probably continued like that. Now, to be fair to Jake, he's very game, isn't he? He's the classic big, good touch for a big man. He does. I mean, I almost started tongue-in-cheek saying it, called him the court Cafu. He gets up and down there. I've seen a few silky touches against Villa. But yeah, you're right. In terms of having that proper sort of overlapping potential and going forward, that's got to be the key there. I wonder whether Vitaly Mikalenko has got that in his locker as solid as he's been at times. Those niggles have been there for a year or so now, and you do wonder whether he can develop much more in terms of going forward. So yeah, that might be the difference, but we've got to be talking about just taking incremental steps, really. And if you look at Moyes' record, I think a lot he's got mentioned this week, because obviously he came in for a lot of heat, and we'll come on to this after the Carabao Cup game for probably the first time since he came back. And looked at the league record since Moyes came back in there. It's pretty decent. So just taking it maybe one step at a time. They were 13th last season. That was a very good finish considering all the relegation battles they'd had. And it'll be one of those things that will evolve, I guess, over the next year or two in terms of trying to get the personnel through the door as well. Because as we saw with Kenny Tete, he probably was looking more at that profile of fullback, but just he felt that was a clever deal if he could get it over the line. The Bosman ended up staying at Fulham instead. So I'm sure there'll be more irons in the fire going forward, because it'll be interesting to see actually how things develop for Jake O'Brien in terms of, does he remain out there as right back, or does he eventually come back inside?
It feels like he's going to be Taki's replacement, really, or if Branthwaite was to move on, would he go in there first and foremost? But I think Moyes, he likes a left-footed centre-back, and he obviously looked at Esteve at Burnley, didn't he, quite a bit last season to see what his sort of journey was like in case Burnley didn't get up. I think the way we started the season, like I said, Leeds was the first half at Leeds was as bad as I've seen us for years. But the second half we had control of it without really being too. I think we had an Alcaraz shot which their keeper saved. Taki somehow managed to put one over from a yard out. But other than that, there was not much really. But then they did respond well. Brighton was a little bit, could have gone either way, but we got the win, and then we were obviously Mansfield and won at Wolves. And that set a lot of people up really positively, didn't it? And coming off that, the Villa game, the one for me, I think, the biggest disappointment till Wolves the other night, because they were there for the taking that day. They came for a point, showed very little sort of, how can I say, very little attacking threat, ambition, really. And we walked out that ground, Beto missed a hat-trick of chances, and that was the one, I think, where we had a little wobble, the Villa game.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because really with these early international breaks, everyone's tearing their hair out anyway because you're just waiting for the season to start. You're just getting up and going when it stops. But it's almost been for Everton, unfortunately, in recent years. So it's like a welcome break because they've been behind the curve, but behind the 8 ball. Sorry, in terms of the recruitment stuff like that, and it's also let's have a welcome break and sort of regroup here. Whereas you wanted that momentum to continue. They'd obviously had the 3 wins, as you say, in the week at before the international break. Like you say, Brighton and Hove Albion rode the luck at times, but ultimately they did well in the big moments. It was a historic day for everyone at the club. Obviously, their first competitive game in a new stadium. I think Mansfield was probably one of patience, and they just had to keep doing what they were doing, and then eventually got over the line. They have a late goal to clinch it, 2-0, and then Wolverhampton Wanderers probably should have won more comfortably. Again, 3-2, but again, lapses cost them a bit there. Should have been more convincing. So everyone was buoyant going into that break, and maybe just did hold a little bit of that momentum. Played well. David Moyes was very insistent that he thought they'd done really well against Villa, but like you say, they were there for the taking, really. They were for them, because they've done wonderfully in recent years. They've probably been like a template for Everton to follow in many ways, the way that they've sort of kicked on since Stevie left. Unai Emery done a terrific job there, but yeah, they came sort of just happy to dig in and go for that 0-0. And Everton, like you say, Beto, the amount of chances he missed. To be fair, I spoke to Beto. It was ahead of the derby, but it was just after, a couple of days after that game, and he's very candid about he knows he needs to score goals. He knows that he's got to do better. It was interesting, actually, because a lot of people have said, what's your relationship like with David Moyes? Because Moyes had been quite frank at times in pre-season in terms of what he said, and how he thought Beto should be doing better. And he said he's actually learnt a lot from David Moyes in the way that basically he's on his case all the time at Finch Farm, and he's asking other people, he's asking the goalkeepers, he's asking other staff. Said, did Beto really score there in training when he said that or whatever? But he's trying to make him better, and it's a very sort of interesting one, because he now 27, and you do wonder, obviously his touch isn't his strongest point, but yeah, if they'd have had somebody sort of really high class up front that day, it would have been the difference, and we'll probably see that throughout the season, unfortunately. You just got to hope that between him and, like I said, Tierno Barry desperately needs a goal, get him up and running. Maybe they just have to share the burden, and then you've got the attacking midfielders behind them. I mean, I spoke to Kiernan Dewsbury Hall at Anfield after the derby, and he said, I realise, he's got his first goal at Wolves, but he doesn't want to get one or two. They're going to have to chip in, and I think that's the difference. Grealish got a few assists, but he needs to get a few as well. Right, and to be fair to Ndai, he's got a couple already, but yeah, those sort of players are going to have to chip in. So it's been up and down, and as you say, then we come on to the two disappointing games this week in very different circumstances.
What did you make of the way Everton started the derby? Because I know, listen, Liverpool, league champions, really good side, and spent close on $500 million in the summer to make them better. But they'd had 3 games, the third game in 6 days.
Yeah.
Early kick-off. I just felt like we went and sat in.
Yeah.
And I think that right now, the way Liverpool are playing, I think it's the worst thing you can do. Yeah. And Southampton, I know they were a much changed team, but I've seen bits of that Southampton game the other night, and they took the game to Liverpool, and they really could have scored 3 or 4 themselves. Yeah. But it was almost when we went 2 down. I know Dewsbury Hall had an opportunity at 1-0 that he should have really hit the target with. Yeah. When we went 2-0 down, it was almost as if we said, well, nothing to lose now, because we're going to lose the game anyway. And we got our foot on the ball. Yeah. And after that, Everton was sort of the team doing most of the prompting and probing and that. And you can go, well, Liverpool sat back, but I don't necessarily think that's what it was. I just think Everton got a better grip on it. But what did you make of the start that we had at Anfield?
Yeah, it's the Achilles heel. Again, we mentioned Leeds United as well. But yeah, Liverpool, we know, as you just said, they're the league champions. I mean, it's unfortunate that they're the neighbours, but, you've got to be realistic. They are the best team in the country. And as you say, a record Premier League spend in the one window. The fact that they're able to leave 200 million plus players on the bench and have them in reserves, come on, second half. So, yeah, I think that was the disappointing thing. I don't think Evertonians were expecting them to go to Anfield and win convincingly. No. But you just want to do your best, and you're thinking that if you start like that and you're already on the back foot, as you say, they'd had the game Atletico Madrid, wasn't it? Midweek Champions League, and with the early kick-off. Okay, you might run out of steam, but at least try and get in their faces at the start. Just see if you can disrupt them. See if you can sort of, because they were nervy. Even when it's 2-1 when it finished, their fans were nervous. I mean, I don't think Everton were necessarily throwing the kitchen sink at them, and that was another sort of disappointing thing when Idrissa Gueye pulled one back. They weren't maybe going for it as much, creating as much as they perhaps could have done. But yeah, it was disappointing the way they started. I mean, over the years, you get like an Everton bingo, like disappointing ways to lose derbies or whatever. They always find new ones. So there wasn't any of those major sort of moments where obviously you have a Divock Origi moment or anything crazy like that, or even one of the many refereeing controversies. I know obviously there were moans about the referee in terms of obviously Dewsbury Hall getting booked for the taking the free kick too quick, and I just wonder about it. Obviously, I don't think there were moments that cost Everton the game, but it would just be interesting if you flip those around. Say if a Liverpool player had been booked for taking a free kick early, or Liverpool had been losing the game and were only 3 minutes of stoppage time.
Yeah,
just wonder about how they would have been taken.
So Chris, that's the reality. And you're right. There was nothing the way we go. The referee done that, and we lost the game. Like the one. A couple of years ago under Dyche when Konate should have been sent off and it was 0-0, it would have been 10v10.
Better again.
That did sort of cost, or it played a big part that they had the extra man on the pitch. But I don't really, I don't think I haven't heard any Everton fan really saying he was the reason why we lost. But it is those moments though. Why is there only 3 minutes? Why is he getting booked? How hasn't Conor Bradley been booked for man and Grealish from start to finish? That they're the moments that you pick out and go, like, would that have, if it was the other way, would it have happened? You don't believe it, do you? But we responded all right. It was just a bit, why didn't we start like that? That was what I was left with after it. Was like, if we'd have gone at them quickly in the opening half an hour maybe, who knows how it would have played out. But listen, they could have still beat us. It just felt a little bit frustrating at the end. And
you just feel like you just want to like leave everything out there on the pitch. It's a derby match, you'll go out there and you've given your all, and they're too good for you. Well, fair enough, but it's all if buts and maybes, and that sense of regret that if they had started a bit quicker, a bit sharper, both of movement and a thought in those early exchanges. Because don't get me wrong, there were two actually smart finishes. To be fair, they were two well taken goals, and I guess that's what you do. When you pay the money, that's what you get. But you just had those feelings of regret that yet again, and for David Moyes as well, because as much as I'm a huge David Moyes fan and a lot of respect for him, same way as the stuff about the Carabao Cup, which we'll come on to with the his Anfield record. On the one hand, he's never been properly turned over there the way you 2-4-0s under Roberto Martinez, and unfortunately it could have gone that way at Anfield. 2-0 down, they were well on top. You're wondering, don't go under there, don't suffer a real sort of shoe-in that's going to leave you mentally scarred for the rest of the season or whatever. So on that respect, but the fact that he's still never won at Anfield, I mean, to be fair, he's had a few decent draws there, including the infamous one when Rafael Benitez used the small club jive, which had to do a lot of backpedaling over all them years later. But he's always been competitive. He says that when his teams have gone to Anfield. But so to continue the winless streak there, he must be disappointed in that respect, because he knows at 62 he's not going to be there forever and ever now. And there's a few sort of big monkeys he wants to get off his back in that respect. Obviously, no wins at Chelsea, Arsenal, or Man United the way either. So he's got opportunities to try and put those right. But for the Anfield woes to continue, I'm sure that one sort of just the manner that it was. If you, like I said, if you give your all and you still got beat, fair enough, you hold your hand up. But when you weren't at the races the first half an hour or whatever, and that was deeply disappointing.
Moving on then to Wolves, obviously that was, a lot of people were looking at that as, to quote Ian Dowie all those years ago, did we have the bounce back ability? And I was saying at the time, that's the good thing about footy, you get the next game quickly to put it right. And you look at it and you understand the manager's going to make some changes. A lot of people who watch this were adamant he should be playing his his strongest team no matter what. How do you write that argument in your own head first and foremost of like giving some players game time? And then what do you think? What's your opinion on what David Moyes actually did do? Well,
there's a piece out there on the Echo website if anyone wants to look at it. It was about our history taught David Moyes what was going to happen, and our hearts sunk 75 minutes before kick-off when that team sheet dropped. So I'd implore people, go and please have a read of that, sort of articulate my points further than that. But yeah, 7 changes too many away to a Premier League team. I know we sort of had this sense of, we were chatting before we went on air, and you're talking about Grimsby winning in the League Cup at Goodison in the 80s, and it will always be that way. But I try not to think like that. I try and think this is a massive opportunity, and the players were telling us that before. And James Tarkowski had said that, and it's not just a platitude. He's not just churning out these quotes. There was a genuine feeling that Everton could go deep, could have a real good go at the Cups this year. I think if you're not one of the established elite in terms of the teams with the very most money, you are always at the luck of the draw in terms of you might get one of the real big boys away from home. And like I said, like losing at Anfield, there's nothing you can do that. They're better than you. But just give it your best shot. And everyone felt that was a very winnable tie. They'd already won at Molineux less than a month before. Wolves had lost all their games in the Premier League, because let's not forget, Wolves made 9 changes. Haven't made 10, but Wolves made 9. But that's because, probably understandably so, they're looking at Premier League survival. So that's their priority. Whereas Everton, after a few years of relegation battles, are hopefully beyond all that now. They're not looking over their shoulder. They're looking up the table. They want to be, if they can, pushing a fair wind for the European place, certainly mid-table respectability. So this was a huge opportunity, a hugely winnable tie, and you go away to another Premier League team. Whatever they do with their selection, 7 is too many. When you've got over half the team being changed there, I think EFC Stato pointed it out on social media. I think whenever they'd made 7 or more changes, they'd lost every single time apart from one when they beat Norwich on penalties. So they didn't even win the game. They'd got to go to penalties at home to Norwich and scrape through. So that shows you. As I said, history showed them, and there's so. Look at. I said that for a club of Everton's size and stature, if you're not at least trying to win cups, what's your raison d'etre? What's your reason for existing? We know Everton have been fortunate enough in the past, 9 times league champions, but we know it's going to change. There's take a lot of change in football for Everton to be competing for the title, unfortunately, again. But domestic cup shouldn't be out of what we saw last season, Newcastle and Crystal Palace. Tarkowski quoted both of them, name checked them, said that we're using that as an inspiration. So for not even on the one hand, the club's mantra seems to be that you want to keep players integrated and use those squad members who haven't had the minutes. I understand I'd give some of them a go. I mean, I'd have played Diblin and I played Barry, but I mean, you look at one of my big bugbears is cup keepers. I'm not saying that Travers had a stinker or anything, but fair enough. Play him against Mansfield at home. I wasn't crying about that. But again, going away from home, why just weaken your team like that? Jordan Pickford is a staff boy. Jordan Pickford's the only player from England's starting lineup at the last Euros final to have not won a major trophy now. Because Harry Kane won the Bundesliga this year and Mark Gay won the Cup, obviously, with Crystal Palace. So Pickford's the only one that team not to win a trophy. And they're out in the competition this year. Obviously, he's got the FA Cup to come, but he's out in the Carabao Cup before there's even a chance to put the gloves on. And so, same with somebody like Jared Branthwaite. I'm sure he's got huge ambitions and they're out in the competition before he's kicked a ball. It was too many changes for me. And I know I've spoken to people from the squad and they still felt they had a strong enough team to win the game, but it's unnecessary for me, though, probably more so than any other club. Well, we haven't got John in there as we speak, but he's old enough to remember when Everton been the best team in the land on several occasions. You remember them winning the league. I'm slightly younger, but at least I can remember them winning the FA Cup in '95. But look at everyone sort of younger than us, that younger generation of Everton. They've got absolutely nothing. They've got them lot. I was going to say across the park, but it's not the case anymore, is it?
No,
first derby where you wouldn't cross the park. But I say all that they've won. I just want to have those days out, those memories for those new Evertonians, and just to throw it away. I said, fair enough. If somebody beats you and they're just better than you, well, you hold your hand up. Yeah. But to make 7 changes, I thought it was unnecessary, especially with the West Ham United game not being for 6 days afterwards. It's not like they were playing Wednesday, Saturday. It was Tuesday and then got all the way through to Monday. So for me, in many ways, he actually played a stronger team against Mansfield. Jack Grealish started against Mansfield. Maybe he'd be saying, well, I've got it. At the time, he'd only just made his debut or whatever, give him a bit of game time. But it seems strange to me. Probably shooting himself in your foot for a certain extent. I know you've got to give some of those players a game, but 7 is a lot when you were away in other Premier League team. And I know there's a lot of Evertonians are fuming about that. And I said it's probably the first time since he came back that David Moyes has felt some heat from the supporters, because it just they can accept a defeat, but just putting yourself at a disadvantage from the start, and that's how it felt like. I just wonder privately, I think he said publicly, because Joe, to be fair, my colleague Joe Thomas asked him after the game in terms of did he have regret, did he see it as a missed opportunity? Now he said no. He said he didn't see it as a missed opportunity because they were rating of a Premier League club. I'd see it as a missed opportunity, and I think there's a lot of Evertonians who do as well.
I think I'm with you on the Jordan Pickford thing. I don't get it. Yeah, Mansfield at home, fair enough. Give Mark Travers his debut in front, Hill Dickinson and all that. But I just think when you see the lineup and Pickford's not in it, you sort of go, "Are we taking?" Because I used to say this with other managers, with other goalies. Jordan's left out or whoever. It's like, you've got your goalie. Doesn't need resting. Like you said, there was 6 days. Wolves are playing Saturday, so we can understand them making, and they're at Spurs, so it's not an easy game for them. You can understand them making some changes, big changes. But Jordan Pickford had to play. The Adam Asnu one, I love Seamus Coleman, I think we all do. Yeah. I didn't get that playing him at left back. I didn't. Yeah. Whatever. But even playing, starting him, I didn't get why Asnu didn't get at least half a game or half an hour. I didn't get that. I think Alcaraz, you can make a case for Alcaraz playing. You can make a case for Dibbling playing. And Barry, but I think once you start totting them up to 6 and 7, those lads are coming in and haven't played before. No. Together. So straight away, there's going to be disjointed. And I do feel a little bit, even though I don't think he was very good the other night, but I think he's done all right when we've seen him. Tierno Barry, he was almost in with the second string players. And therefore you're judging a lad who's, if he was in with Jack Grealish, Dewsbury Hall and Jai, or even Dibbling. Dibbling is a good footballer and will do well for Everton, I'm sure of it. But he wasn't in with the sort of first team, if you like, and we want him to get a goal. Yeah. And therefore he's trying to link up with Dwight McNeil. Didn't cover himself in any glory the other night. Like I said, Alcaraz a bit of miss. Dibbling was just getting going, so that wasn't there. I think Timmy Abunam, who has got good aspects to his game, it wasn't really at it. We missed the Trisha in the middle. Yeah. It's all of these things that just putting you on the back foot, and then to go and give away the goals that we did, so poor, both of their goals. Yeah. I mean, it's a lovely finish for the second one, but the goalie does leave the whole goal open. Probably the only place he could have put it. And the first one, I think we've got no pressure on the cross. React too slow. Michael Keane doesn't react at all. Dwight McNeil watches the whole thing unfold, doesn't track it. Yeah. The keeper pushes it back into an area where it's dangerous. And you're looking at it, and David Moyes has said the diabolical goals to concede. So I'm not talking out of turn. No. The manager's looked and gone, that is a diabolical goal to concede, the first one. Yeah. But I bet you're sat there going, here we go again, because you could tell there was no reaction when we went behind. There was not like, come on, lad. James Garner's trying to do it all. Yeah. And I thought he actually had a decent game. I did. I spoke to Jimmy Garner after the game, and to be fair, I said, did you, because Idrissa wasn't playing, all of a sudden he's the senior partner there in the engine room. Was he trying to take on that extra responsibility? And he said he felt he does that. He is a talker and a leader, even though he's one of the younger players. But I thought he was actually one of the better ones on a really tough night. But in terms of what you say about Tierno Barry, it's difficult. You can see, and that was all sort of epitomised in that frustration, that petulant moment. I mean, it was stupid, really, but booting the ball right under the assistant referee's nose, and unnecessary yellow card. And I just wonder how much of that was actually Moyes' decision
decision, take him off half time. I think,
he went and gave a foul away not long after it because the referees had a look, and I think, well, he's just thinking he's getting sent off.
Yeah, and he he has got that in his locker. You know, when he went to Basel, he actually got sent off in his first two games he played for them. So it is something. I think I remember him saying when he signed for Everton, he said he liked it because the fans are crazy. Maybe we need just to rein him in a bit. Maybe a Cantona-esque, dare I say, in the camp. But yeah, across the field, like you're saying, it's Travers. It was a lovely finish, to be fair for him. He took it well, the second goal at the end, the substitute. But yeah, if Jordan Pickford had been, it just sets a mark. Like if they look at that team sheet, and then in the same way Evertonians were deflated, Wolves were probably like, ooh, we might have a chance here, and it just makes me wonder. I mean, it's a different era, of course, unfortunately, because it's been now 30 years since Everton won the cup. But can you imagine how would Neville Southall have reacted to that? More trophies with Everton than anyone else, more games for Everton than anyone else. They're saying, oh yeah, if Howard Kendall had gone, oh, you're having a night off, Nev, put your feet up, whatever, I'm going to... Dangerous sounded like, here we are, the angry middle-aged men, that sort of... But... Why put yourself at a disadvantage like that? It was too many, and yeah, it was just like you say, when they went behind, there wasn't that feeling that they were going to come back. It was just no sort of reaction again. I mean, it shows we think we've got strength and depth in that Everton team now in terms of the attacking midfield options, in that there's probably now about 6 players, but we did see that drop off between the preferred 3 now that you've got, and those who are behind them, even though Tyler Diblin should hopefully have, like you say, that huge future ahead of him. I certainly think that it's probably a tough place for Dwight McNeil at the moment, because he's had the best part of 3 years as a regular, certainly before he'd done his injury against Wolves, ironically, last season, so at least 2.5. Played a bit as an inverted winger on the right when he got fit again and playing under Moyes, but you don't imagine him getting a start in the Premier League for a while now, in terms of the recruitments they've made in those areas for him. So he's going to find it tough to get back in there. And as you say, Asnu was one of the ones I would have put in personally. I would have given him a go, but obviously David Moyes sees him more than us, and he must feel he's a while off. But yeah, I was talking to you before, and we said about Seamus Coleman. We do a job for you, won't you? Wherever you ask him to play. I mean, it was interesting. I saw the BBC lineup, and they before the kick-off, and somebody at the B thought he was playing centre mid. I wasn't sure he was ever going to go there, but
no, I don't think so.
But yeah, then the same way, when he had his baptism of fire at Benfica, all them years ago, was it 2009, and he was left back. He wasn't left back in 2009. He's not left back in 2025 either. So yeah, he probably goes down, to be fair, as the club's best right back of the Premier League era, but he's no left back. And to be fair, he, for that first goal, Seamus sort of struggled with the bounce and where it was going to go. So yeah, and then it's because he's operating in an area he's not used to. So all in all, yeah, I felt that Everton shot themselves in the foot, and it's desperately disappointing for all Evertonians. On the one hand, for the old boys who've seen it all before, but also for the younger generation who are just waiting to create their own memories and hopeful that the team can do something this season. And just to and go out of another cup over a month before the clocks go back. It's just that Groundhog Day, really, unfortunately.
What about this for the stats and Steve pieces? But as I worked this out last night, since we sold Lukaku, every striker we've signed has a combined goal record of 35 goals. Wow. That's within 8 years. To put that into perspective, Lukaku scored 25 league goals alone in his final season. That's unimaginable to think of an Everton striker scoring that many now.
Yeah, it's incredible. So basically 18 months' work from Rom or something like that, yeah. Between them, that shows you, doesn't it? I wonder how different it would have been if old Ronald Koeman had got Giroud over the line, Olivier Giroud, when they have him in the building, something like that. But yeah, it just shows you, doesn't it? Interesting. Dom ended up finishing on with almost identical record to Duncan Ferguson, so that's a whole new sort of different podcast, that one. But it is quite the start. It's quite damning, really, and shows you, people have done well in spells. And to be fair, Beto did well after Moyes came in, and he ended up almost by default being the only fit striker in the latter part of last season. But yeah, that sort of prolonged performance is just not happening, and that's the stuff. It was a problem, to be fair. David Moyes had first time around. He broke the transfer record 3 times, didn't he? For centre forwards, BT, Andrew Johnson, and Yakubu. And for various reasons, never quite happened. Beattie couldn't replicate that form from Southampton. Johnson started well. I think he probably suffered after Jose Mourinho with the mind games, accusing him of diving. Yeah. And then obviously Yakubu got the terrible injury after that one prolific season that he had. So that is a great. I was going to say it's a great start. It's a damning start, isn't it? It's a really damning start. But it sort of does get to the crux of where a lot of Everton's problems are, and that's the ultimate thing. Like this summer, they had to. We might think that 27 million is a lot of money, but maybe we're only talking in an Everton context there. If you look at the sort of money some other Premier League teams are spending on strikers, it probably puts everything into perspective and why you've got to sort of gamble on a prospect like Barry rather than the finished article.
Well, Liverpool brought...
Can you repeat that stat for me? Because I just think that's utter bollocks.
Steve, this is just Steve. I haven't worked it out.
Are you disputing that number now?
I am massively disputing.
Since Lukaku was sold, we've signed. Every striker we've signed has a combined goal record of 35.
Oh, is he not including Dom then? It's because Dom was signed before.
It's not including Dom, is he?
Oh, fuck!
Dom was already here.
I'm not sure.
Well, Dom was already here. So money we've spent on everyone, and we've probably spent a fair bit of wedge on strikers. None of them have been able to score enough goals.
Yeah,
and that's a fact, isn't it? Just a fact of life.
Yeah, it shows you what a long term problem it's been, because it's 2017, isn't it, when Lukaku left eight years ago now. I mean, it's incredible looking back. I mean, I was always a big Lukaku fan. I wasn't necessarily, like a lot of Evertonians, a fan of his chatter in terms of he was a highly intelligent man, spoke several languages, and that was, I think, was a problem. He was saying he's various things to various people at different times, but in terms of his abilities, if you look back, people would say, oh, well, he doesn't work very hard, or his touch is a bit off, or whatever. I think, for me, he's head and shoulders in terms of the Premier League era for Everton strikers. I think he's shown it throughout his career. He's just been so consistent in terms of he guarantees you your goals, and he was a special player. Whatever you think of Rom as a person, I think he was an absolute elite striker for me.
No, he was. We've not seen it. We haven't got near to it, have we, since he went? We've got near to it. There's a lot of good strikers around, and Everton just don't seem. It's weird. It's just weird. I find Everton, the way they chase centre forwards, is weird. Every manager, it's like, what are you looking for? Like, look for a player who's good. That's your first. Stop looking for this style. Yeah. Look for a lad who can put the ball in the net. Look for someone who can take a ball and beat a man. It's just, we had like apart from Neil Mopai, which was the craziest signing ever, when they had Seru Garassi ready to come, and we let him go off and do what he did in Germany, and we ended up with Mopai, who was 5 foot not and couldn't run, and didn't have particularly good goal scoring record. That was the craziest of them all. Yeah,
I suppose as well with Mopai, he was sort of worked well on the 2 at Brighton, and he was now going to be a like for like alternative.
The most he ever got was he got 10 in one season in the Premier League, and about 7 of them were pens or something. So.
Right. So and as we know, probably not a model professional in a dressing room either. So I don't know. Maybe they say their hands were tied, but I think to be fair to Kevin Farewell, if you look at his good and bad buys, that's probably the one big black mark against his name, isn't it? Neil Mopai.
I think some Rangers fans might challenge it at the moment over Yusuf Chimisi. He's done well for Everton in that transfer, absolutely. But let's move on from Mr. Thelwell. Blue Jay said, my head is back on after Tuesday night. Monday's a big game for us, in my view. We need to win against the poor side. Funnily enough, I'm mates with a West Ham fan who's hoping we do them a favour in getting Potter sacked. So don't you dare have any other ideas, Everton. And Mark says, if Everton don't get a result in the next 2 games, you think Moyes is under pressure? Well, I'll answer first. He shouldn't be. He shouldn't be. But I do believe this ownership will look at it all, of course. They won't look at it now, but you've got to win games, haven't you? That's as simple as that. But I think Everton can win both of these next 2 home games. They're tricky games for different reasons. Palace are a good side. They're not unbeatable. And West Ham are terrible, but have got players who can hurt you. So the difficult, but 3 very winnable games.
Yeah, I wouldn't put them anywhere near pressure at this stage. But like you say, like all managers have they're all judged by their results, and it would be an interesting one going in, because then it'll be the next international break, just which way this season's going to swing now in terms of that momentum, because you had that bright start, and that's been emphatically punctuated, unfortunately, with those 2 results this week. And, you know, a Derby defeat and a cup exit as weeks go. You know, it's pretty grim, really, isn't it? So, yeah, two winnable home games. So the pressure's on for a good reason, hopefully, that you think that, like you say, there are 2 what you would consider to be winnable fixtures. Certainly, it's interesting, like say, with West Ham. People who sort of looking at David Moyes now and pointing the finger, well, just look at the fella in the opposite dugout there, Potter. I mean, he was one, wasn't he, when the latter days of Sean Dyche, and there was all the talk of Potter, and, you know, would he be good for Everton or whatever? Look how that one's gone.
I think he's a good coach, but it's just not.
Yeah.
West Ham is a basket case anyway. It is. Getting rid of David Moyes, the fella who had them in Europe 3 out of 4 years, won the trophy. They were never in any, and then choosing Lopetegui, who was shocking, absolutely shocking appointment, you know, and then panicking, and then going for Potter, and they'll panic and go for Nuno next, whatever. Yeah. They're a club that is crazy, I think.
I think they were very ungrateful. In a lot, obviously, there probably a lot of them who won't be like that, but some of the comments that I saw about David Moyes, like say, was it ended a 43-year trophy drought? I mean, we're talking about Everton in 30 years now, 43-year trophy drought, and they were in the same division when they won the FA Cup. So, you know, obviously, you know, it wasn't a vintage side, a great achievement for them, but obviously they were a second division side at the moment. I think off the top of my head, maybe the last one from outside the top flight to win the FA Cup, possibly. But so if you look at what David Moyes did, and just in terms of the Premier League finishes as well. I mean, we had a bit of a ding-dong over the summer when Kenny Tete ended up staying at Fulham. We had some Fulham fans sort of, I think I'd said something like, let's have it right, you know, in terms of at Everton and Fulham when it was happening. And they had some like Fulham fans who were sort of questioning that Everton were a bigger club than Fulham. Fulham have never won a major trophy in their entire history. No. Okay, so let's come on to West Ham United. Before Moyes had been there, I think he guided them to back-to-back 7th place finishes, okay? They'd never done that in their entire history. West Ham had never finished top 7 back-to-back seasons. I mean, they were kind of doing that. Everton were doing that sort of every year under Moyes towards the end of his first spell. So, yet there's still sort of, a lot of their fans were saying, oh, he's not playing in this academy of football way and, you know, the West Ham style, blah, blah, blah. I mean, don't want to turn into like some huge West Ham bashing episode, but yeah, I can understand why you want to play a certain way, but for them, it was the most consistent period in their entire history, really. And for them to say, oh, well, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. Yeah.
Ever top flight finish, they still finished below Everton.
There you go.
Remember,
was that 85?
85
yeah.
in the league, and they were 3rd or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Odd.
Yeah, they're good. To be fair, they have got nice people down and go down to West Ham. But I just think it's strange, sort of these, I wouldn't say delusions of grandeur, but once teams have had a few good seasons and maybe some sort of fan bases can get us ahead of themselves, I mean, in terms of where their sort of natural position in the football pecking order is. I mean, unfortunately, as Evertonians, having been at the top and had that consistency for so long, Evertonians have had to experience a sort of a decline in the last generation of where they've fallen. But some of the other teams, maybe after, you know, a couple of decent years, and like that in time, obviously I was down at Brighton last season, Moyes' first away game, and, you know, the way that some of their fans were complaining about this supposed anti-football that Everton were playing, almost like a sense of entitlement. You've had a couple of half decent seasons, and you think, he's turned into Barcelona. So yeah, I think that in terms of what West Ham, he's incredible. I think there are some West Ham fans who are incredibly grateful for what David Moyes did, but some of them were a bit harsh on him at the time. And as you said, in retrospect, the decision to let him go when his contract ran out seems ridiculous now. But hopefully, Everton, despite this bad week of the team, who sort of benefit from that, because if anyone's giving Moyes stick, and he is right to feel the heat after those 7 changes, but look at the bigger picture and all that he's done, and since he came back into the club, I mean, he knows what he's doing, to be fair to David Moyes.
Yeah. Little T says, feel like Barry needs to start against West Ham United. If neither are popping them in, I'd prefer to have the one who looks more dynamic in the starting 11. Beto's been given more than enough chances to show us that derby goal last season, and others around it weren't flukes. I don't think the flukes are. I just think Beto, as Liam Neeson said, a specific set of skills, doesn't he? And sometimes it works, and sometimes he'll score goals this season, Beto. But I think Barry is the longer term project, isn't he? Because Everton have made, and David Moyes was here when we've made the investment. Yeah, he was given Beto. Wasn't he? Which is sometimes is a big thing.
We've got to remember Beto, for the best part, under Dyche was the understudy to Don, wasn't it? It was only that injury, and to be fair to Beto, he did well. I think that at times we've not necessarily been playing to his strengths, and quite a few of those goals last season, with the through balls, whether it be Tarkowski or Garner playing it up and for him to chase onto, and he's not really had that, and maybe a bit of that is the way Dyer and Grealish play out wide. I mean, that's not necessarily to his strengths, but yeah, he's still missed a heart full of chances, and he acknowledges it in that self. But like you say, Barry's the one who's been brought on under this manager's watch rather than a player he inherited, and he's the long-term prospect. But I think what we'll see is that it will keep on changing, and unless one of them goes on a great purple patch and a bit of a scoring spree, it probably will continue for a while, that one gets a goal, then it goes to the other, because unfortunately neither of them are entirely convincing. But as we've said a couple of times already, but Barry just needs to get off the mark. He just needs that first goal, and hopefully you see it'll all, because strikers need that, they thrive, especially when you come into a club pretty big money, and you just want to get up and running, don't you? And it might be one that you think you're playing West Ham, it's an opportunity for them to score, go with that one. It will be a really interesting call, because if you're looking about who you're going to play against West Ham, I think everyone will say, well, you'll have that attacking three will come straight back in. Yeah. You'd imagine Mikalenko return at back. Pickford will obviously come back in goal, Adrissagay in the middle. But then that's probably the one really sort of big call who leads the line, really.
I go with Barry, personally, for this one. I think give him another goal, and give him a goal with the full armoury in there. He hasn't seemed to, when he's come on, really. I mean, he was done all right at Anfield, actually. His link-up play was quite nice at Anfield, but I just think back to like the Brighton game at home, he was instrumental in both goals against Brighton. Yeah. I think his link play was good that day as well. And I just think give him another go and see. Yeah.
It's probably the biggest decision he's got for Monday, I think. So interesting to see which way he does go with that, and hopefully whoever he picks in can get a goal, because I said Barry's not off the mark yet, and Beto could do with one as well. Yeah.
David Murphy, Jake O'Brien has been found out by opponents now. Yeah, Michael Keane's banging 60-yard diagonals to him to take it on the fly, beat him, and put a perfect delivery. It's not working. He says, what's going on with Tarkowski? He started the season really poor. He was injured. Well, I actually think he's been all right the last couple, but he says also the inclusion of Dwight McNeil in that cup team is appalling. If Moyes is using the competition to give players time, what's the point with McNeil? He's finished at Everton and will be moved on. Those decisions are ridiculous. It does look like he'll be leaving in January, I'd imagine, McNeil.
He's got a lot to do, hasn't he, to work his way back into that team.
I don't see how he gets in, because Dibbling will be the first one who comes in. So, and I know that, or it was sort of made aware that if Everton had got an offer for him, money-wise, they'd probably let him go. And obviously he's sort of knows that as well, and therefore. But it is one of them that managers do play these players. Yeah. In other, where you look and go, he's not going to play. Why have they played him? But they all do it, because they have to. They'll sort of say, well, we've got to keep everyone fresh in case or up to speed in case we need them. But
yeah, it could be a point of it. You know, do you get the money that you're expecting? Because to be fair, they paid over 20 million for him, so it's like, are the suitors going to be out there? I mean,
well, the amortisation fee's the one, isn't it? That's the only thing I've to look at now. Do we get what we're owed for him, sort of thing? What's left? And I think, because again, he's not. David Moyes made a decision quite quickly when he come in, I think, on McNeil. I know we had a bit of an injury, then he come back and he was quickly back out and in. And I think you make those decisions as a manager. And he talked about needing pace and needing Dwight hasn't got that. And where's he going to play? I always thought he was better off the striker, really, because he picks the ball up in those pockets.
He likes playing there, to be fair, but I mean, when he did do that, the team weren't necessarily doing it. He was getting the numbers, wasn't he? And he was doing well individually, but the team weren't quite on it. So, it's looking tough for him. And as you say, when a manager makes a decision so quickly on you and calls them out, not by name, but when you're mentioning the pace. So, it's going to be a long way back for him, I would imagine.
I think so. It's the thing that thing about making that many changes for Wolves, it just simply doesn't feel like a useful way to evaluate the players who came in anyway. It sets them up for failure. I feel like it achieved absolutely nothing other than knocking us out the cup. Yeah,
like you say, the disjointed. Tierno Barry wants to be getting that supply line from the first choice attacking midfielders, and he's there with the second string. So it's not helping everyone. It doesn't help the momentum, because even though those players might be talented individually, but they've not had a chance to bed in as a system. So just on every level, that's why it was so disappointing. It just felt unnecessary for me. You know, West Ham not till the Monday night, 7 changes.
Yeah,
too many.
Paul Williams, I will keep banging this drum. It'll take time, as we've changed our style of play from last year. We've got 2 tricky wingers, but it slows the game down, and we aren't a fast squad anyway, so it's harder to play to Beto and Barry's strengths. Balls in behind us, we can't put teams under pressure, but we are high up the pitch for Barry and Beto to find space in behind, if that makes sense. I might be wrong, but I think it'll take time. Yeah. Well, there will be, me and Pet were speaking about this yesterday, other players have got to get on to what Grealish is doing as well. When Jack Grealish is holding the play up and bringing people to him, we've got to have runners either side. Now, the odd times Dewsbury Hall's been able to do it, it's when we've got him behind, done it at Anfield twice. You know, one he should really hit the target with, and the other one he cut back for a Trisha, who kicked one foot onto the other, and Alisson saved it. Yeah. But then never in the second half. So we've got to get others doing it, and whether that's Mikalenko, whether it is Dewsbury Hall, or whether we get another, it would be a Trisha, wouldn't it, from the way we play, but one of them has got to go beyond to open up that little bit of space. It's why, for me, we need an attacking left back. Yeah,
that's the thing, when you've got Grealish, somebody as talented as him, you've got to have that intelligence around him and the ability, and maybe that's the bit of the drop-off compared to when he was at Man City. You got so many expensive world-class players around him, so you got to be cute, and you got to, hopefully it will come within time, but that is something they need to be working on, because he's getting it's just almost like a basketball analogy, double teamed, they're doubling up on him, aren't they? And that's what's happening, and so he will hold it up, and whether it's Mikalenko at full back, or as you say, one of the midfielders, or even through to the striker, he's got to have those willing runners around him. So I'm sure it is something that they'll be working on at Finch Farm, but I think we've seen Jack's obviously player of the month in the Premier League when he first came in, 4 assists from the first 2 Premier League starts, but teams are going to start targeting him now. They say if it all goes through Grealish, so those around him have got to be cute and clever to that.
And that should, in theory, free up and Jai on the other side. That's the Avenue says, all right, lads, hope all's well. It's been a while since I've managed to watch a live show. Great. After a pretty impressive window and decent start to the season, I can't believe some people are calling for David Moyes' head after a minor dip in form. I agree, the last 3 games might be disappointing, but we haven't rolled over against anyone with the exception of Wolves, maybe. Do people forget the hole we were in when he walked through the door last year? Come on now, give your head a wobble. Have you not heard Grealish in his interviews as well as raving over him? Moyes is the main reason he's here, and I can't just understand it. The same at West Ham fans who wanted rid, but take him back in a heartbeat. That's probably just a handful of people, mate. People can't be serious when they're talking about moving David Moyes on. The stat of the strikers is going on in the comments.
Okay.
But Richarlison apparently scored most of his goals from wide areas.
Oh, wow. Such a look of it.
I think he's talking as a centre forward.
Has this one been thrown out?
He scored 13 goals.
11 Premier League.
These are strikers.
11 Premier League goals.
12, that's like
No, he's taking the argument for himself.
Stay that you're getting poo-pooed by Ped and the Piv over there. David Savage says, let's be honest, in the last 20 years we've only had Lukaku and one season Yakubu and Dom for one season.
Yeah.
How many others have reached double figures? Well, Wazza did, definitely. David also says, your point on a strong enough team to beat Wolves, all of our hearts dropped when we saw that ridiculous team sheet. Yeah. So if us fans can see it, why can't Moyes and his coaches? It's a huge missed opportunity, and Moyes is wrong on that point.
Yeah, I know there's always going to be a difference, isn't there, between what managers say publicly to cover their backs and what they think in private. And when I was speaking, I had a big sit down with David in pre-season when obviously we were over there in America, and spoke to him in Chicago. And he was talking about his big ambition for Everton coming back, was he wanted to get them back into Europe. But for me, the big ambition surely has to be the trophy. You know, it's the longest trophy drought in Everton's history. He's experienced that himself now at West Ham United. That lovely moment with his dad, David Moyes Senior. You know, we're able to put the medal around his neck, and I know that's a big thing for him. He's a big football man. He's the man who got him into football in the first place. He still goes the game. Al Davey Senior, the rest of the family, all there. As much as he's hugely respected by Evertonians, I think he would be adored. If he was to end that longest trophy drought in the club's history. I mean, he's gone past Howard Kendall now in the terms of the number of matches he's had with Everton now. It's only Harry Catterick now. And you look at them, they were obviously had that longevity because they were winners, a couple of titles each, an FA Cup each. Obviously Howard had the European trophy as well. So just to throw it away, it just seems silly for me. I mean, hopefully you learn from it from the FA Cup. But it just seemed unnecessary for me, and I just wonder privately whether he does think differently about that. Because we could all see it, you know, as fans, as journalists, as whatever, just as people who want the best for Everton, whatever hat we're wearing. So I don't know what his thinking was behind that one. We know we've heard you've got to keep the group integrated, you've got to give opportunities to players, but just for me, you could have tweaked that team without necessarily weakening it. Yeah. Because even though Wolves actually made 9 changes, it didn't necessarily. A couple of those who came in for them were actually better players. But you could have shuffled the pack without having a real detrimental effect. But I just felt like it was too many for me. And like we said, when most of the fan base can see it, it's a bit of a head scratcher when you're wondering why the manager himself is saying that, and you do wonder whether publicly he's saying one thing and then privately perhaps you think elsewhere. I hope he's thinking differently privately. You know,
wouldn't you think though that they will have learned something from the other lads? Because like we've lots of talk, see it in the comments on here, and you know how we've got a strong bench now and all that. You know, the strongest bench we've had, and the levels are there and all that. Now for the coaching staff, surely now they've looked at it and gone, you know, we aren't as strong as these players, and just not good enough. Some of these players just aren't where we need them to be. And I personally wouldn't have made 7 changes, but it's a smack in the face, isn't it? Almost. Yeah. And at least, and I said this yesterday, a few of those players can't be banging on his door when they're not in the starting 11 on on Monday night against West Ham, because no one could walk off that pitch and go, I deserve to start, apart from James Garner, really, I deserve to start on Monday.
Yeah, big drop-off, isn't it? We were saying, we're almost like spoilt for choice, certainly in those attacking midfield areas. But you can look at it now and say, well, no. Because even Diblin looks like he's got a lot to learn. I thought Alcaraz was actually probably the best of the 3 and was a bit unfortunate to get hooked at half-time. But even so, he knows he's got a battle in his hands, and we've covered the Dwight McNeil topic. Yeah. So... it was a reality check, but I wished it not had a Carabao Cup exit to be given that opportunity. But
frustrating. Steve P says, do you think we all overlook some glaring failings in the transfer window? Because in reality, it was still much better than the last few years. But the pace thing is just the definition of insanity now. I asked Angus Kinnear last week.
Okay, yeah.
In Everton's recruitment programme, is the pace filter turned off? You know, because we just don't seem to be able to go and buy a lad who can run, whereas every other team seems to have 2 or 3 who are an outball or whatever. We don't seem to have any good players, don't get me wrong. We've got lads who aren't slow, and Jai's not slow.
No.
Dibbling isn't slow. Barry and Beto aren't slow, really, but there's no one who is an outball and an option, and we just don't seem to.
What did he say to that? What did Angus?
He just started laughing.
Okay.
Oh well, you know, we've looked at all. You know, what could he say? He's not the manager, is he? I guess, but
yeah, I mean, all for the days of Andrei Kanchelski, say. Imagine if you. I mean, that's been some people. Sometimes people say, "Oh, well, which player from another era would you most want?" Imagine if Everton could have Andre now in his pomp. Yeah, that could be a big difference, couldn't it? Yeah.
We just had Lukaku from a few years ago. Something like that. Blue Keely says, baffles me how much people turned on Moyes after the Wolves game. Very disappointed in the game, but people calling for him to be sacked and mad. The most secure we've been pretty much since the first time when Moyes was here. Yeah,
that totally go along with that. Because you can criticise him. You can say, it's the people who closest to you. It's the people who care the most. It's like families only. Who can actually give you that. Those home truths, and you still got huge respect. Like I said, you could go as far as saying he's probably shown himself to be the only manager in the modern era who can manage Everton relatively successfully over a prolonged period. Think about the other managers they've had in there. We mentioned him earlier, but Benitez and all the other lot. Even somebody like Ronald Koeman, who's got a huge reputation in the game, but he didn't get Everton. It was just another job for him. Yeah. So at least, on the one hand, David Moyes has got that longevity. Only Wenger and Ferguson done more Premier League games. I'd argue he's probably better now than he was first time round because he's more well-rounded, comfortable in his skin. And then if you look what he did first time round, those 9 top 8 finishes, it's incredible. He's got that incredible pedigree, and he gets Everton. From the moment he came in when he was a young man, he was only 38 at the time. The People's Club straight away. He gets Everton. So yeah, you can do that, but you can also say, well, he was wrong to make 7 changes. Those two things don't have to be detached. You don't have to go, David Moyes is rubbish because he made 7
wrong, didn't he?
changes. We feel he got it wrong, but we can also feel that he is a really good Everton manager.
By far. Mark Max says, one thing we learned from the Cup game is that Ped's starting 11 show ain't going to change much.
Any word on that now?
No, he's not reacted though. That's fine.
He's still looking at those numbers or those
he's
strikers.
Still fuming over the striker thing, isn't he? Keith Seymour says, "Hi lads, really frustrated and disappointed about Tuesday. I'm certainly not calling for his head, as it really shouldn't surprise me, as it was the same when he was first here. He really seems to not care about this competition. As for the plays he put out on Tuesday, it's becoming clear that the likes of Barry and Dibbling are not ready yet. I'm not writing them off, but Tuesday showed the gulf where they are now and where they need to be. Yeah. Moyes should not have made so many changes, 3 or 4 at most, but 7 was stupid as it completely disrupted the whole team. Why change the goalkeeper? I think we've said that a few times on this one. I can understand Garnett, as we need to keep him fresh and not run him into the ground, but Pickford should have been in goal, and either Njai or Grealish should have started to give us some flair. Yeah.
This has always been a big thing for me. Like I said, I don't want when danger's fallen, this angry middle-aged men category, but it's not under 8s. It's not let's give everybody a game, let's be fair to somebody. I'm sure Mark Travis is, I don't know what's been said, when Moyes came to him and said, look, I'll do you, maybe he had an arrangement, says, you play Carabao Cup, but I'm sure, he can get by. I'd play, goalkeepers don't need to be rested, and for me, like we've said already, fair enough, Mansfield at home, you can put your number 2 in, but when you're going away to another Premier League club, because it could have easy, if Everton had been at the races, maybe gone to penalties, and again, we all know how good Jordan is on penalties, so I'd always play my first choice, and then also, if you do, this is a luxury Everton haven't had for a long time. Yeah. If you do go deep in the competition and you get to Wembley, and it sounds like, well, do you keep the other fella in now, or do you go back with your first choice? I just put the number 1 in, especially when it's somebody like Jordan Pickford. I'd have played him every time for me.
Yeah, me too. But it's a case now. We just got to we've got to lick our wounds now, haven't we? We've got West Ham at home on Monday. Great opportunity for me to just bounce back. And I think the thing is, if we can get... I said this the other week when we come back from the international break, looking ahead of the games. The thing's after Villa, rather, looking ahead of the next 3, I said, if we were... oh, no, before Villa, wasn't it? Yeah. Looked at that pocket of 4 games and was like, if we could be on 13 points at the end of the next window, then I think we'll be in a good position in the league where you sort of hang around there. It takes a while for you to drop down to the depths. Then I would have took that, and that was allowing 2 wins, a draw and a defeat. Well, we've had the draw and the defeat. So, these are 2 tricky games, but Everton have been decent at home so far. We've made a decent transition, really. And it is a case, I mean, Monday will be, it's not defined because it's a long season and anything can happen, but I think it is important that we get out there and get after West Ham from the first whistle on Monday, and then that way I think we can beat them, and then that'll energise everyone again then for Crystal Palace. Yeah,
we've been unfortunate because after the derby, we're all like, well, at least got Wolves on Tuesday, chance to bounce back straight away. So they've wasted that opportunity. But as you say, at home, I mean, they've not been breached, have they, at Hill Dickinson Stadium yet? No season goal. And you probably can't underplay that, really, in terms of the teething problems that some teams have. When they move from one ground to a new stadium, it can be a big difficulty. And I think that's probably testament to the work that Dan Meese has done in terms of making it that fortress, making it a bigger, better Goodison Park in a modern setting that Everton have been able to feel straight at home from the off, really. I know, obviously, it's a much bigger pitch and that plays its part. I was speaking to Michael Keane yesterday. We've got a piece coming at the weekend. He says he actually likes the fact that it's a bigger pitch, but speaks very well, actually, about what it's like playing, giving the insight of what it's like at Hill Dickinson Stadium. But, yeah, it's a real opportunity here with those 2 home games now we sort of divide the season up into those little segments, and like we said, they went into the last international break on a high. It's an opportunity to do that again and be in a decent position, because it's been a bad week, hasn't it? But can turn it around and hopefully have a good week next week going into that break, because then all of a sudden things look a lot rosy again, don't they?
It's just about momentum, isn't it? That's can you create the momentum? And we had momentum when we had the international break, and we've come back and we've lost a little bit of the momentum, but that's can happen, can't it? One was Liverpool away. If we step away from it, like you said before, ignore the fact we're in the same city, the league champions, you'd be going. Like, if it had been Man City, people would have gone City away. Not really expecting to win there, because they win and they spend money. Well, just because it's Liverpool, you have to take your derby head off a little bit and go, okay, they're a good side.
Yeah.
We had to go. It's a bit disappointing, bit aspects of it. Yeah. But you can accept that. And then the Wolves one is, I think, is it fair to say we'd have been sat here a little bit more worried had he not made any changes, and we'd have gone and performed at Wolves like we did the other night and got beat when they'd made 9? Oh,
100%, yeah. If he'd have gone strong and he'd still got turned over, then you really would be like going, ooh.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think that's part of the frustration that you say you didn't have to do that. Yeah, you genuinely, if it made, you only made about 3 or 4 changes and you'd still got turned over, then you might have been saying, oh, I'm concerned now. But it's more sort of frustration that they've shot themselves in the foot and done something unnecessary there. So yeah, at least look at these 2 games now. It is important that they try and get that momentum back and get back into those good habits. But and again, there's no excuses, because they all got rested, those main men, didn't they? Or they only got half an hour, so they really should be on it come Monday night.
Ready to go.
Yeah,
ready to go. And who knows? Maybe Beto or Barry will grab a hat-trick and we can bounce back with a flurry. Because it's a game we can win, there's no doubt about it.
Have a decent record against West Ham as well down the years, don't you? I mean, we look at all the teams, it stands out in our heads, all the teams who Everton have struggled against, not won at Chelsea in the Premier League since '94, and haven't won in front of fans at Anfield since '99, and just the one win at Old Trafford is it since the opening week of the Premier League in '92. Obviously, Oviedo. So those sort of games stand out in our heads as where Everton have struggled, but they've got a decent old record against West Ham. So hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, is this real? Touch wood? I don't know.
Touch everything. It'll have left the ether by Monday. It's fine. It's fine. Right, Chris, once again, thank you very much for giving up your time coming in. It's great to chat.
Cheers, welcome, Baz. And like I said, hopefully some more news in terms of Spirit of the Blues. We're hoping to get a bit of a live event coming at some point in the autumn. So just, look out for that one. I haven't formalised the details for that, but it's something we've hopefully got in the pipeline. And like you said, there'll be another book on the way next year. No, that's the thing. Once you pop, you can't stop in terms of when you've done that first half. No. So to be fair, obviously, Spirit of the Blues is the story of Goodison Park. Yeah. So the next one is on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey, and it's going to be all about Everton inside Everton's first season at Hill Dickinson Stadium, of course, and that includes our trip to America at the start. So there we go. You know,
brilliant.
Bit of a Toffee TV connection for that one. We were all on tour together for that one.
I mentioned you won the quiz.
Yeah, it's in there.
And hopefully they'll finish with a European qualification and an FA Cup tonight. About that'd be all right. What a season that'd be.
Let's hope. That's why it was part of the disappointment on Tuesday. He was thinking, well, you know, that's one avenue closed off. But yeah, whatever happens, it's a momentous season, isn't it? It's a huge season, and it's a new dawn for the club. And whatever that story ends up being, that it's going to be in there, the pages of on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey.
Fantastic. Good luck with everything. Let me just quickly, a little bit of sad news. Ian Seymour, a lifelong Evertonian, and he was a long-time honorary secretary of the Shareholders Association. He passed away in August. Tomorrow, September the 26th at 11 a.m, his family and many friends will be celebrating his life at the Landican Centre Chapel. So our thoughts today and tomorrow with Julie, Adam and Emma for the sad loss of their husband and father. So all thoughts with them tomorrow at this tough time. Right, thank you very much everyone who's joined us. We'll see you later.